Why most visualization is rejected on contact. There is a strange religion on the internet. It worships visualization, and it keeps failing quietly. The instruction sounds innocent enough. Visualize yourself having it. Feel how you would feel once it's yours. Smile. Imagine. Pretend harder. And when nothing changes, the blame somehow lands on you. You didn't feel it enough. You didn't believe hard enough. You weren't spiritual enough. Dark humor moment. Apparently, the universe responds only to Oscar-worthy performances in your head. Here is the actual problem. Visualization does not fail because you lack desire. It fails because your mind refuses bad data. The subconscious is not poetic. It is not inspirational. It is a pattern recognition system. It runs on reference. From a neuroscience and energy science perspective, the subconscious asks one question only. Have I seen something like this before? If the answer is no, the signal collapses. This is not resistance. This is quality control. Breathe. Think about what people are told to do. Visualize sitting in a luxury car. Feel the pride, feel the confidence, feel the freedom. But if that internal state has never been encoded, if there is no emotional memory, no sensory precedent, the subconscious flags it immediately. This is fake. Not emotionally fake, structurally fake. Quantum systems behave the same way. A system cannot collapse into a state that has no probabilistic bridge. There must be continuity, a path the system recognizes as plausible. No bridge, no collapse. So when people repeat fantasy visualizations, they are not strengthening belief. They are strengthening rejection. Each repetition reinforces the same verdict. This does not belong to me. That is why people feel tired after visualizing, why it feels forced, why motivation drops instead of rises. The system is protecting coherence. Hermetic wisdom said this simply. The mind does not accept what it cannot recognize. Yet modern manifestation culture ignores this entirely and tells you to imagine harder. Dark humor moment. That's like trying to teach someone a new language by yelling louder in the one they don't understand. Breathe. Here's the crucial correction. Visualization works when it does not ask the mind to invent a new emotional reality. It works when it asks the mind to extend an existing one. The subconscious does not need proof of the outcome. It needs proof of continuity. And continuity lives in what is familiar. This is why visualizing objects fails. Objects are distant, abstract, emotionally thin. But social interactions, conversations, reactions from people you already know, those are rich with memory. Those pass inspection. In the next chapter, we will dismantle the standard visualization model completely and rebuild it using the after principle. Not fantasy, not pretending, but a method the subconscious cannot reject because it already knows how it feels. That's where visualization stops being motivational nonsense and becomes a functional mechanism. The after principle and why it bypasses disbelief. Here is the missing piece that most visualization advice never mentions. The subconscious does not reject desire. It rejects implausibility. It is not trying to sabotage you. It is trying to keep reality consistent. From a systems perspective, the subconscious is a continuity engine. Its job is to maintain a believable sequence of experience. So when you ask it to generate a feeling that has no reference, no memory, no emotional footprint, It does the only sensible thing. It discards it. Breathe. This is where the after principle comes in. You do not visualize the thing, you visualize evidence that the thing already happened, not cinematic evidence, not dramatic proof, subtle proof. Something ordinary enough to feel possible today. Why does this work? Because the subconscious operates through association, not imagination. It asks, is this interaction familiar? Does this emotional tone exist in memory? Could this realistically happen soon? If the answer is yes, the signal passes. This is not spiritual loopholing. It is how pattern recognition works. In quantum mechanics, a system collapses into the most probable state available given its constraints. You are not forcing a future. You are selecting the most coherent one. The after scene creates a bridge. It links the present moment to the outcome through a familiar emotional pathway. Dark humor moment. People try to visualize being rich, powerful, adored. But their subconscious is still negotiating grocery prices. The system notices the gap, and it refuses to lie. Breathe. This is why conversations are so powerful. A conversation with someone you already know carries built-in credibility. The tone is familiar. The emotional exchange is predictable. The setting is believable. You are not inventing a new feeling. You are reusing an existing one. The mind recognizes it immediately. Hermetic wisdom captured this elegantly. The future must be seated in the present, not symbolically, structurally. An after scene does exactly that. It seeds the future through a present quality experience. This also explains why exaggeration ruins visualization. If the scene feels too elevated, too dramatic, too perfect, the subconscious flags it again. This is not how life unfolds. Subtlety is not weakness here. It is precision. The most effective after scenes are almost boring. A message sent, a quiet smile, a simple acknowledgement. That is enough. Because once the subconscious accepts the implication, it fills in the rest automatically. Behavior shifts. Decisions recalibrate. Opportunities are noticed instead of ignored. Not because you manifested harder, but because the system now sees a path that makes sense. In the next chapter, we'll look at why this shift alters behavior without effort, how action follows belief naturally, and why forcing motivation actually breaks the loop. That's where visualization stops being mental theater and starts becoming trajectory control. Why visualization changes behavior without force. This is the part that confuses people the most. When visualization finally works, nothing dramatic happens. There is no lightning bolt, no surge of motivation, no sudden personality transplant. Behavior just changes, quietly. You start doing different things without making speeches about it. You notice options you ignored before. You take actions that feel obvious instead of heavy. And people ask, how are you so disciplined? Dark humor moment. Discipline had nothing to do with it. From a neurological perspective, behavior does not follow desire. It follows expectation. The brain is constantly predicting the future. It selects actions that align with what it believes will happen. When an outcome feels impossible, the system conserves energy. When an outcome feels plausible, the system mobilizes automatically. Breathe. This is why after-scene visualization works. It does not command the brain to act. It informs the brain that acting makes sense. the subconscious updates its internal map. This leads somewhere. Once that update happens, action becomes efficient. Quantum mechanics mirrors this exactly. Particles do not move randomly. They follow probability gradients. Where probability is dense, motion occurs. Where probability thins, motion slows. Visualization does not create the outcome. It thickens the probability field around it. You are not pulling the future toward you. You are stepping into a region where that future is more likely. Hermetic wisdom would call this alignment. When inner expectation matches outer possibility, movement becomes effortless. Breathe. This is also why people sabotage good visualizations by overdoing them. They try to feel it more. They repeat it obsessively. They monitor results. All of that reintroduces effort, and effort signals doubt. The system hears, "This still isn't real." Visualization is not meant to be intense. It is meant to be familiar. The more ordinary it feels, the more powerful it is. Think about it. The brain trusts routines more than fantasies. It believes in repetition, not excitement. That is why a quiet after scene, played once or twice, then released, outperforms dramatic visualizations done daily with desperation. Dark humor moment. Begging the universe is a terrible persuasion strategy. Breathe. Once the subconscious accepts continuity, it handles the rest. It nudges behavior. It filters perception. It highlights certain options and hides others. You experience this as intuition, not mystical intuition. Directional clarity. You stop asking, "What should I do?" because the answer presents itself as the obvious next step. In the next chapter, we will look at the mistakes that collapse this process, why people accidentally reverse the effect, and how to keep visualization functional instead of ceremonial. That's where most people trip themselves right before it works. How people accidentally break visualization right before it works. Here is the cruel irony. Most people abandon the method at the exact moment it starts working. Not because nothing is happening, but because something unfamiliar is happening. Silence, no excitement, no emotional fireworks, no constant urge to visualize again. And the mind panics. It says, "Wait, shouldn't I be doing more? Shouldn't I be feeling something? Did I lose the state?" Dark humor moment. People think peace means nothing is working, because chaos is the only signal they trust. Breathe. The first way visualization collapses is monitoring. Checking reality for proof, scanning for signs, interrogating outcomes. This returns attention to absence, and attention is a vote. From a consciousness mechanics perspective, what you measure repeatedly becomes dominant. If you keep checking, "Is it here yet?" the system receives one message only: it is not here. That message thins probability. Quantum systems collapse based on observation. But observation must be neutral, not needy. When observation carries urgency, it destabilizes the field. Hermetic wisdom was blunt about this. Grasping breaks flow. Breathe. The second way people sabotage visualization is by upgrading the scene too soon. They think, "Well, if this worked, maybe I should imagine something bigger." So they replace a subtle after scene with a cinematic fantasy. The subconscious notices immediately. The emotional familiarity drops. Plausibility weakens, the bridge collapses, and the system quietly disengages again. Visualization is not a ladder you climb. It is a position you stabilize. Bigger does not mean better. Closer means stronger. Dark humor moment. Trying to impress the subconscious is like lying to someone who already knows your habits. Breathe. The third mistake is moralizing the process. People judge themselves for forgetting to visualize, for not feeling aligned every day, for having normal human fluctuations. This turns visualization into a task. Tasks signal effort. Effort signals doubt. The subconscious does not respond to pressure. It responds to coherence. If visualization becomes something you have to do, it loses its function. The purpose of the after scene is not repetition. It is registration. Once the system accepts continuity, repetition adds nothing. More is not better here. Cleaner is better. Breathe. Here is the corrective rule. Once an after scene feels natural, stop touching it. Let behavior adjust. Let perception recalibrate. Let reality reorganize quietly. Do not babysit the process. The subconscious does not need supervision. In the final chapter, we will compress everything into one principle. Why this method works across goals, timelines, and identities. And how visualization stops being a technique and becomes a way of selecting reality. That is where this fully locks in. Visualization is not imagination. It is selection. Now everything collapses into one clean principle. Visualization does not create reality. It selects which reality becomes continuous. That distinction matters. Reality is not a single line moving forward. It is a field, a spectrum, a probability ocean. Quantum physics calls this a wave of potential. Hermetic wisdom called it the field of becoming. Different languages, same mechanics. What determines which possibility stabilizes is not desire. It is coherence. Breathe. The subconscious does not ask, "What do you want?" It asks, "What are you already living as if is true?" That is the slide. When you visualize an after scene correctly, you are not fantasizing. You are quietly informing the system, this outcome already has continuity. Once continuity is accepted, everything else reorganizes. Perception filters shift. Behavior recalibrates. Opportunities stop hiding, not because the universe rewarded you, but because you stopped broadcasting contradiction. Dark humor moment. Most people don't fail at manifestation. They succeed at proving to reality that nothing will change. Over and over again. Breathe. This is why visualization feels effortless when done correctly. You are not pushing the future into existence. You are standing where that future already makes sense. From that position, action feels natural. Timing feels clean. Resistance feels unnecessary. The subconscious prefers efficiency. When a path feels coherent, it removes friction automatically. This is why after scene visualization scales. It works for objects, relationships, identity shifts, freedom, expansion, not because the details matter, but because the mechanism is the same. Continuity first, outcome second, final compression. You do not visualize the thing. You visualize proof that the thing already happened. You do not convince the mind. You satisfy it. You do not force belief. You offer familiarity. And when the subconscious recognizes the future as plausible, it behaves as if it is inevitable. That is when effort dissolves. That is when movement accelerates. That is when reality stops resisting. Visualization was never about imagination. It was always about position. Choose the position correctly, and the rest unfolds on its own.